This roundtable is going to highlight how operators have been helping the rollout so far. So before we start doing that, I would like to invite, and we'll do this order, I would like to invite each of the dear panelists to introduce themselves and the company they are representing, and a little bit their role in the Purple Foundation, so that we set the stage for questions. Paul, maybe you would like to start?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Livia. My name is Paul Keator. I'm with Dish Network, and I am on the board of the Purple Foundation. And here really, you know, a lot of service providers, like we're all doing, really to drive our future, to drive where it wants to go. So drive the future of Purple, obtain more control of the ecosystem and the customers and the experience. So the evolve and drive.
Thank you, Paul. Josh?
Hey, good morning. My name is Josh Goodell. I'm the Vice President of AT&T Broadband Organization. I'm here. I'm actually joined by one of my colleagues, Jason Savard, in the audience. And Jason's actually on the board for Purple effective this year. And we're excited about the evolution of Purple. We'll talk more about why we're here and what we're expecting to get out of the partnership.
Many thanks, Josh. Chem, would you like to go next?
Can you hear me well, by the way?
Yes, yes, we can.
All right. So firstly, I'm really apologize for not being with you guys. I'm really frustrated because I'm maybe like 2 kilometers away from the location where you are, but I'm COVID positive. So I found it wiser not to be present physically with you. So sorry for that. So I'm Shem Assayag. I'm working for Orange Innovation. I'm driving the home services domain, which includes activities around CPEs and obviously Purple. And you know the commitment of Orange around Purple, so I will not get back to it, and I'm sure we'll give more details during the panel session.
Many thanks, Chem. Randy, I trust you can hear us. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I can hear you all very well, and I appreciate the fact that there's the opportunity for all of us to get together and share some thoughts regarding our Purple initiatives and what that means overall to the foundation and its objectives that were already highlighted by Dave and Len. My name is Randy Zimler. I am a member of the product marketing organization at Verizon, and my focus is primarily when it comes to the innovation aspect of Purple to bring together all of our internal teams at Verizon, as well as a member of the Purple board to make sure that we articulate at least the overall vision as to the direction of open source and what it means for our ongoing initiatives for common platform across all of our CPE, whether it be wireline or wireless. So thank you again for having all of us together, and thanks to the Orange community for pulling this together for us.
Many thanks, Randy. Everyone knows me here, but my name is Livia Rosu, representing MaxLinear, Senior Strategy, Landscape, and co-chair the Marketing Committee of the Purple Foundation, working greatly with Arno from SoftAtHome on that role. Stepping now to the questions of this panel. Some of you, and most of you, may remember we had the Operators Roundtable last year, and we talked about the value-added services, very dear to operators' deployments, value-added services that do encourage the subscribers to actually stay. They can be retained as subscribers of the operators because they get all these services, ranging from not just the bandwidth connectivity, but the healthcare, remote access to the school classes, anything you can think of that have been developing greatly during the COVID times. So we talked about the value-added services in the last year summit. I would like us, as I said, to focus today on the ecosystem. And the first question is about the importance. How do you see the importance of the ecosystem? Assuming we have the value-added services that you are greatly offering to your subscribers and retaining them, how do you see the importance of the ecosystem? And the last year, since this summit, we actually have seen a great evolution of that. Operators going into the building the ecosystem, SoC vendors, OEM vendors, app developers, so many demos that you have. So maybe, Paul, you'd like to start with that one, the importance of the ecosystem, and I'll follow the same order so that it's easy for the video call.
Great. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. As I touched on a little bit last year, when I look at the value-added services ecosystem, you're looking at it from 2 points of view. You're looking at it from the operator's point of view of creating those operational efficiencies you want to see and the customer value. And then you're looking at the customer point of view as well, creating those secondary applications for the customer. If you look at service today, a lot of service providers, at the end of the day, the customers just want their service to work. So what you can do with those value-added services and give better insights and do proactive repair and the things you can do there to increase those customer satisfaction. And obviously, as an operator, you should optimize your operational costs along with that as well. That's a very important part of the ecosystem in my point of view. Obviously, part of that too, it is a customer pointed value-added service, but it's also obviously very highly important to the operator, and that is that security ecosystem, right? So you have to make sure that customers understand and are aware that the operator is there and providing those types of services for them. I mean, we all kind of get those, you look at your camera when you're going by at your house, you don't know if someone else is looking at you, right? So just to have those insights to understand what is going on with that ecosystem and that security functionality to make sure, yes, I know this is reliable, I know I can count on it, and it's a good experience and a secure experience for the customers. So.
Thank you, Paul. Josh, would you like to develop on the ecosystem part of this?
Yeah, we didn't
Please.
compare notes, but we didn't. We just met actually.
Yeah.
But I actually think about the ecosystem in a similar way. And I think of the first of all, the base investment in the OS layer being shared investment across multiple like-minded operators as being fundamental, foundational. And to understand why that's important to us as AT&T, you have to look at our heritage and our history, where we've had a fully kind of AT&T proprietary CPEOS, which is expensive, and it does not open the innovation cycle to app developers on top of that. And it's a matter of thinking about where do you want to spend your investments. And I like the idea of having a shared platform where everyone is contributing on the base capabilities. And then I like the idea of the ecosystem being really mature with software developers on the top end, creating new innovation, which ultimately is all about what the customer experiences. So ideally investing more and more at that layer where the value-added capabilities are brought to life. And I don't want AT&T to be the one that has to do all of that. I want the ecosystem to thrive and be a part of that with them.
Many thanks, Josh. Nicely explained. Chem, would you like to continue? Please.
Yeah, I think the question of ecosystem ties nicely with the question of platform, as Bruno was discussing this morning during his introduction. So I think, and usually platforms are coming with ecosystems which are tied to them. I think if you look at it from the full range of different companies, it starts obviously with the chipset makers, the OEMs, then you have the different software integrators, then you have the operators, obviously, application developers, and ultimately the consumers. And I think by having really a very solid ecosystem, and this is one of the aims of Purple, you really unlock value for all the different players. Because at the end of the day, you create more value for the end users, then you really unlock potential for all the different players in the ecosystem. So I think it's really about saying how the different layers articulate between themselves to make it really interesting for our consumers to benefit from the full ecosystem. So that's really the goal and also the challenge that we have as strong players in the Purple ecosystem.
Thank you, Chem. Randy?
Yeah, just so quickly, what we're talking about is a platform as a service, and that's important. And the consideration is beyond just the platform itself, is the way in which customers now have this viable method by which they could be attracted to a marketplace. So a marketplace of services that would be centralized and potentially distributed out to all of the various CPE, and that CPE, whether it be wireline or wireless, has that same platform, which is a platform as a service for all these applications and new products in terms of those services that can be utilized across the entirety of the customer's experience. So I think we're all on the same page. We all have an intention and ambition to move the projects forward.
Many thanks, Randy. Nicely explained. Taking into account that we have the ecosystem, and we see lots of demonstrations here, but the ecosystem is now ready, is mature, as just said, has been building around all the efforts of the community, of the Purple Foundation community. The next step here to accelerate is to think about all these connected devices. They have to be connected all the time to offer those services that users need. And with the challenge of combination with the wired and the wireless devices, which is not that easy. A part of that, the unique key piece that needs to be on everyone's thought on the operator side, it's the interoperability. How we ensure all these devices are interconnected, linked all the time, aligned, smoothly allowing the data transfer for addressing all these different services because we have the ecosystem in place. How would you see interoperability importance? Everyone knows, but how should we work towards ensuring that? Paul, would you like, please?
That's a good question. Obviously, interoperability is highly important, as you said. You know, it does create that operational efficiencies on the back end of it. So you definitely have to have that in mind as you're going forward and starting your development processes. When you look at interfaces, you know, a lot of people like to look at the different interfaces and kind of make them competing technologies, but really they're tools in the toolbox, right? Whether it's you're looking at Wi-Fi, Ethernet, MoCA, G.hn, they're all tools in the toolbox. So how do you create that interoperability to use those tools across different devices and make sure they're operable? You know, that's something you definitely have to do in the, up front. And then your value-added applications have to be smart enough to actually go and run those. So,
great point. Thank you, Paul. Josh?
So as an operator, the way that we're thinking about this challenge is across multiple domains. So first of all, it starts with coverage in the home. So you have to have wall-to-wall coverage, and historically that's been primarily a Wi-Fi connection that you've got. But we also have to think about other coverage technologies like Thread and others so that all the devices can connect, because that's fundamental to the value proposition. Then I think a layer above that, we also are starting to think more about how Matter plays into this equation and how do you have a uniform ability to onboard a device simply, how to do simple control of that device, and ideally do that in a way where you're able to do that across multiple ecosystems, multiple, what today are more siloed ecosystem. So we're trying to think through this across multiple layers, from the connectivity of the device through the onboarding of the device to the control of the device. And I think Purple's actually going to be an enabler for us in doing that, because we can think about that level of the value chain more as opposed to the base foundational layer.
Many thanks, Josh. Shem, would you like to explore more details on that part?
I think it starts with the specification itself. So everyone can implement the specification in a way that is consistent across the board. And then it goes through, a testing, validation, certification process. So at the end of the day, you need that your devices, your application, your services are following the standard and implemented in the right way. So I think this is very much the process with standards. So, but we have to make it right. So that's one thing which is really in our hands at the level of the Purple Foundation. And then, as it was just mentioned, there are some standards also growing in the home ecosystem, especially Thread and Matter. And we'll have to see how we combine with them, how we can rely on them, and how they can rely on us. And at the end of the day, it's really about making it easy for the consumers to really access to all the different services and find ways to have interoperable devices and services, which is today, I would say, a pain for most of us, device. So we need, as an industry, to make sure that it's becoming much more easier. And I think obviously Purple can play a great role in that respect, and so also tying up with our industry bodies and standards.
Many thanks, Shem. Randy, would you please like to explain the interoperability from your point of view in the ecosystem side?
Sure. Look, we've really covered the nuts and bolts of the points that are made here. Shem and Josh, we're all aligned. And then fundamentally, what we're looking at is what's been articulated. Everything is based on standards, and we're going to have a talk at the top of the hour specifically with the roundtable participants on that topic. So, to the extent that we as an operator community, we have always engaged in our ability of leveraging the capabilities of what exists in the industry today. And earlier today, also, Bruno brought up the topic of the heavy hitters. We need to be observant of those large entities that are trying to do their best to take over in the place of an operator. But the advantage we have is that we are standards based. So, given that, the opportunity prevails and we will persevere.
Many thanks, Randy. With that in mind, I would like you to think about the energy consumption, the next step of having all these devices fully connected, from the gateway to the IoT devices. And we know from Orange, all operators are committed to the energy consumption. We need app developers to develop more apps that they can manage that and connect from the smart meters to any single set-top box device platform. How do you address that as an operator?
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Become greener.
Yes, as Orange, talked about this morning, it really starts out with, looking at your interfaces. So looking at and evaluating your interfaces and the performance requirements of the interface at, call it a time domain, right? Mm-hmm. So getting a good understanding and insights into when can I manipulate those interfaces and actually bring them down or, bring them to a lower state where you're actually saving energy. The other part of the equation as well is doing a better job of looking at your CPU and memory and making sure you're understanding what processes are taxing that, and is it for good reason? Is there things going on in the background that really shouldn't be going on where you can optimize your memory usage by actually optimizing your processes within the gateway as well? And all that can be leveraged, obviously leveraging, Purple OS with Purple LCM, creating those smart applications that can do that monitoring to help you achieve those goals.
Thank you, Paul. Josh?
So first of all, I'd like to commend Orange's vision and leadership in this space. In the United States, I'd say we're working on enabling this, but it's really, really impressive to see what Orange is doing. And I guess I would look at this through the lens of the customer. I think smart energy is just another interesting use case in a smart home. And I think our challenge is to make this relevant for end users, for customers. And if I tie back to your prior question about interconnected devices in the home, and if the gateway truly can become a hub within the home that is connecting all of these devices, I think that customers will find a lot of value in the ability to turn down their network and actually reduce their energy spend on a monthly basis. So there's a lot of really interesting and compelling technology behind this, but I try to come at it more from the lens of a customer, and I actually think that we're starting to see some real interest and momentum in that space.
Many thanks, Josh. We see that all the time, the needs of the customers and subscribers to manage their network, not just connectivity-wise and topology discovery-wise, but seeing which devices they should turn off and on and when to optimize that. So
as a resident of Dallas, Texas, I will tell you, having the ability to remotely monitor and control your thermostat is worth hundreds of dollars per month. That's what this is personal for me. So I come at it from a consumer and an operator point of view.
Yeah, many thanks, Josh. Appreciate it. Shem, would you like to build on that, please? Randy, you still hear us?
Yeah, I hear you fine.
We'll start with... We'll try with Shem once more. If not, we switch to Randy to allow. Shem, please.
What is the problem? Can you hear me?
Yes, slowly, yes.
Yeah, I know you had a technical problem. I was just saying that Kun mentioned already a lot of the activities that we are carrying out at Orange. Very big lag, so it's kind of strange for me. Anyhow, so you mentioned a lot of activities, so I will not comment them again. I fully agree about energy management as a implication also for the end consumer, especially with the energy prices are already soaring in the past year. So giving the ability through services and applications to our consumers to really monitor what's happening in their home and really manage heating, cooling, energy consumption at cloud is going to become increasingly important. And this goes back to the ecosystem. Obviously, we have the right enablers, the right APIs, the right technologies inside the Purple standard that will allow third parties to build upon that. Then we create again a win-win scenario where consumers will be happy, application and service providers will be happy, and obviously operators enabling more service to reach their consumers will be happy.
Thank you, Chem. We hear you clearly. Thank you. Randy?
Thank you.
Sure, just a quick add-on. And it really has to do with the points that Koen has made previously with regards to sustainability. So flipping the script a bit, if you think about Europe, Europe's way ahead, Orange in particular, in terms of innovation around sustainability and what it means from a CPE perspective. We need to adopt, in terms of North America, a similar attitude, finding better ways to manage the waste and to recycle what we can and provide a method by which we can better control the consumption, whether during normal use of CPE or during offline scenarios. In any case, we need to really further how Purple looks at sustainability as a project and potentially establish working groups to start concentrating on those aspects of how we can adopt more of that viewpoint within the foundation.
Many thanks, Randy. Any questions from the audience at this point? Please step up and you can get a mic. And if you have any insights you'd like to share and point to a specific speaker. Hearing me. Evgeny, yes, please. Thank you.
I will stay down because I don't want my head to be in the camera. But my question is the following: it is a great success and a great development to get to CPU and resources of a system that will handle all the virtual added services that we have, value-added services, applications in containers and whatnot. And the CPU, of course, is high-powered resource, and it's growing in resources, in computes, in memory. How do we handle that situation? Because it's a bit controversial to the sustainability. So we need to try to address growing of the resources with lowering the cost and their consumption.
Thank you, Evgeny. Was that a comment or a question for one of the speakers in particular?
That's a question to all of the speakers.
To all of the speakers.
I was just going to say I agree. Amen.
Amen. Wojtek?
I wanted to add that Koen mentioned that even if we increase the capacity of the CPU, it works. Okay, so during the Koen's presentation, he mentioned that our latest CPU, even if it's much more powerful in terms of CPU bandwidth, whatever you want, it doesn't consume more energy than the previous one. Okay, so we can manage both.
Right, a good comment, yes. Thank you, Wojtek, yes. To be taken into account, yeah.
Yeah, so to your point, hardware is getting more efficient in how it's inputted in the power usage. And as I said earlier, also you have to look at that kind of CPU watchdog. What's really going on? Not only will that help with being more sustainable, but also with those operational efficiencies we kind of touched on earlier, right? And making sure that platform is stable and acting as you expect it to. So, I mean, we've all worked, a lot of us have worked in CPE here. We know there's a lot of inefficiencies, especially with applications on them that tax that CPU for no good reason. So creating that watchdog is a great, it's a great opportunity for us. And obviously we have the infrastructure to do that via, Purple LCM, Purple OS, and then come at it from a standardized approach with data models and, so yeah, because I know that's where you want to go. So I mean, it's definitely a great opportunity, something we can do to improve the usage in the ecosystem for sure.
And if I may add one more point,
Please.
This is also about optimizing the entire home. If we replace all those devices that customers usually don't like to have too many of them, there's different hubs, etc. If we concentrate it into a single device, the overall consumption will be much lower too. So that's another path forward.
Centralized.
It's a great call out, and again, go back to what customers care about, and they want less clutter. They want less devices, and eliminating a hub is creating more efficiency on the energy, but also a better overall experience for the customer. It's a great call out.
Great comment, Wojtek. Also for the management of the network and the topology discovery, when something is failing, they don't know which device they should go to. Where is the link that is missing? And of course, the energy consumption, empowering them to actually have control on that on a unique platform, on a unique device. Great to hear that.
Livia, let me point out.
And by the way, I don't. Yeah. Go ahead.
I just want to point out. Thanks. I just want to point out one other. This is not new. So we've adopted very similar technology in PCs, Wake-on wireless, for example, controlled by routers and switches within, especially the industrial domain. So look, it's time for us to adopt a very similar mindset when it comes to consumer. And all the points made about devices and disassociated devices and how we manage the whole experience from a user's perspective, so they make sure that they don't see any gaps in the service that they have signed up for.
Many thanks, Randy. Shem, you wanted to add something. Before you do that, I will introduce the security. I know that's very close to your heart, the cybersecurity. Please.
And by the way, if you have a centralized way to manage all that with one device, which could be the gateway to the number of devices, which obviously has a very positive impact on your CO2 footprint because you have less devices to produce. So, cybersecurity services are also a question which is increasingly important. And the same way the energy question is tied to geopolitical issues. Cybersecurity these days also is somehow linked, or at least the perception of that is linked to geopolitical issues. So we have taken cybersecurity very seriously for quite some time now. So for instance, our devices, maybe be gateways, routers, or set-top boxes. Obviously, we have a management system where we have security which is embedded in the system to make sure that, for instance, identify and authenticate the devices. And the same way when they connect and they want to access resources or applications, we have been able to identify them and make sure that they are legitimate ones. So we have already embedded security by design features in our devices ecosystem. And obviously this, when I'm saying in the devices, this includes all the software which relies and sits on them. One step further is to define what kind of services could be deployed for the end consumers in terms of cybersecurity. So we are looking at that in our different geographies because the sensitiveness of the consumer is different from one country to the other, their willingness to pay, and the kind of threats that they identify is different. So we are looking at that in different countries, in different ways. We already have applications like, for instance, to identify fraudulent calls or non-solicited marketing calls, and this is very popular. This is something that you can already do as a consumer and very easily on your smartphone, for instance. So it's a topic that is going to be looked at very carefully. And again, we might have different ways to address it depending on geographies, because the way people think about it is different. So security by design in our devices, This is something that we have been doing for quite some time. And next step is really seeing what kind of service and application will be made available to the end users. And we have already started doing that.
Thank you, Chem. We have 2 minutes left, so I would like you to just final thoughts, Paul and Josh, on recommendations for the other service providers, how they should follow your path.
So I'll just start off. The reason I'm here and the reason I traveled from Dallas to Paris, other than it's a beautiful, amazing city, is to show the support and conviction that AT&T has to be a part of this community. And what I would say to other operators is it's time to lean in. It's time to commit. We need more operators actually in the throes. We need to do this together, and AT&T is committed to that.
Paul?
Yes, no, thank
Last
you.
thought.
Yeah, when you look at everything we're talking about today, it's just reflecting the great opportunities we all have as operators and service providers within the Purple ecosystem. Really, at the end of the day, the opportunities are endless. It's really what we all make of it. There are so many great things that we can take and control and bring forward. And the other really, kind of call it evolutionary stage from the service provider perspective is we're starting to control the ecosystem instead of the OEMs controlling everything, where the service provider is being more in tune to owning their own future. So there's a lot of excitement, a lot of great opportunity. I look forward to where everything gets taken, as we move forward. So
Many thanks. Many thanks, everyone. Many thanks, Paul and Josh, for traveling here. Many thanks, Chem and Randy, for taking the time to connect on the video call with us. We heard you beautifully. Many thanks for the commitment of the operators to the Purple Foundation, and let's feel good about it.